Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Multilingual. The target structure for this lecture is had better. So first of all, let's look at the example sentence and the meaning for had better. Look at this example. Your sickness is getting worse. We had better go to the doctor today. So what's the meaning of had better in this example? Had better means that you should do something. If you don't do this thing, there will be a problem or danger in the future. Had better is very similar to should. We use should to give advice to people, to say what we think someone else should do. So, I think you should buy this dress because it looks pretty. However, had better is different to should because if we give someone advice using had better, if they don't follow the advice, there will be a problem or danger. Do you understand? That's the difference. Should is for general advice. If I say to my friend, you should try this chocolate bar. It's delicious. If he doesn't follow this advice, there's no problem or danger. It just means he doesn't eat the chocolate bar. But if I say to someone, your sickness is getting worse, you had better visit the doctor. In this case, had better means if you don't follow this, there is a problem or danger that could happen. So if you don't go to the doctor, what is the problem or danger that could occur? The sickness could get worse. They might develop another illness and they could, God forbid, die. So there are many problems or dangers if you don't go to the doctor when you have a sickness. Now, the problem or danger doesn't always have to be very, very serious like death or sickness. Another example I'll give you is this one. Imagine there's a very, very busy Italian restaurant that I want to visit. I say to my friend, let's visit the Italian restaurant. However, it's very, very busy, so we had better book a table in advance. Why did I use had better? Because there's a problem or danger that might happen if we don't book the table. Now, the problem is quite small. It just means we won't be able to eat at the restaurant if we don't book in advance, but a small problem is okay. We can still use had better in this situation. So let's move on to the structure of this grammar. The structure for had better in the positive is simply had better plus a basic verb like walk, see, or go. So the example sentence that you can see below reads, we had better leave now, otherwise we will be late. You can see had better plus leave. Leave is the basic verb. Now look at the negative structure for had better. The negative structure is had better plus, not plus a basic verb. The example says, you had better not be late for work. There is an important meeting today. So you can see the structure. It's highlighted in bold. Had better plus, not plus be, which is the basic verb. And finally, the question structure. This is quite rare. We don't often use had better in a question form, but we sometimes use it. So here is the structure. The structure for had better in the question form is hadn't plus I/he, she/etc. So you can put a pronoun here or a name of a person, plus better plus a basic verb. So the question below says, hadn't we better drive? It's quite far to walk. Let me highlight one thing about the question form for had better. It's usually used as a negative. So you saw the structure hadn't plus pronoun or name plus better. So hadn't we better drive? The negative actually means positive. It's strange, but this is the way English works. Sometimes English is a strange language. So if I say to my friend, it's very, very cold outside. Hadn't we better drive to work? I've used the negative hadn't we better drive, but I'm saying I think it's a good idea to drive. I'm not saying I don't think we should drive, I'm saying we should drive. Just remember that. If we use had better in the question, it's usually negative, but the negative means positive. It means I think we should do this. Let me give you another example to make it clearer for you. If I see some children playing on a busy street which is very, very dangerous, I can say to those children, hadn't you better go to the park? It's much safer. I used the negative hadn't you better go to the park, but this negative means you should go to the park. I think it's a good idea. If you don't follow this advice, there will be some dangerous situation or problem that could occur. So let's move on to the next lecture, things to note. So now that you understand the meaning of had better and the structure of had better, your level of understanding should have risen. Now we're going to look at some things you need to note. Just some other things about the structure that are important to know. So let's look at the first thing that we should note. Had better is usually contracted in spoken English to I'd better, you'd better, she'd better, etc. Contracted means to make shorter. So instead of saying, I had better go to the doctor, we contract I and had to become I'd. I'd better go to the doctor. Or I can say, you had better go to the doctor. Usually in spoken English, this will be contracted to you'd better go to the doctor. So we contract the subject and had, especially when it's a pronoun like I, he, she, but we can also use it for names. So if I say, imagine my friend John or Andrew. Let's say Andrew, which is my name. If I say, Andrew had better visit his parents because he hasn't seen them for a long time. Andrew had better visit his parents. I can say, Andrew'd better. Can you hear that? Andrew'd better. So I'm contracting Andrew and had to become Andrew'd. Andrew'd better visit his parents. So we can even contract names. This is quite common, especially in spoken English. Let's look at the second thing to note. As I mentioned in the first lecture, had better is similar to should, but not exactly the same. Use had better for saying this is a good thing to do now, and use should to say this is a good thing to do in general. So look at these two example sentences. It's going to rain soon. We had better take an umbrella. So this is a good thing to do right now in this particular situation. It's happening in this moment. But look at the second example. When it rains, you should always take an umbrella. Now this is not talking about a particular situation right now. This means it's a good thing to do in general. You should always do it whenever it happens. You see. So the first example is a particular situation. The second one is a general thing. Let's look at the third thing that we have to note. Had better is always used to talk about the present or the future. So look at these two examples. Come on, we'd better go now or else we'll be late. So this is talking about the present. You can see the word now. So we'd better go now. This means in the present, we should go. We should go in this moment. The second example is talking about the future. We haven't seen my parents for months. We'd better visit them tomorrow. So the time word tomorrow indicates it's talking about the future. This is an important thing to note because had better, even though had is a past tense verb on its own, had is the past tense of have, but had better is not the past tense at all. It never talks about the past. It's always talking about the present or the future. So don't get confused by the verb had. It's actually nothing to do with the past, always present or future. Now let's look at the last thing that you have to note. We often use or else, or otherwise to say what will happen if we don't follow the advice. Look at this example. You had better stop eating junk food every day, or you will get fat. You can also say, or else you will get fat, or otherwise you will get fat. So they're trying to say, if you don't follow my advice, this will happen. This is a really important thing to note because using these words can extend your sentences when using had better. So use or else, or otherwise to say what would happen if you don't follow this advice. Let me give you one more example just to make everything clear. Imagine there's a new movie coming out next week and I say to my friend, we'd better book a ticket early, otherwise we won't get a seat. You see, so the bad thing that might happen is we won't get a seat. I used otherwise. I could also use or else. So, We'd better book a ticket early or else we won't get a seat. The meaning is the same. So use these words to extend your sentences when using had better. 1. It's going to be very hot and sunny later. We'd better bring some sun cream and our sun hats. 2. You'd better set 2 alarms, otherwise you won't wake up early tomorrow. 3. Graham, who else shall we invite to the wedding? Marie, we'd better invite Aunt Joan, otherwise she will be really upset. 4. The new Marvel movie is released tomorrow. I'd better book the tickets now, otherwise we won't get a seat at the cinema. 5. My toothache is getting worse and worse every day. I'd better book a dentist appointment as soon as possible. 6. You'd better eat a large breakfast. You need lots of energy for your performance today. 7. Hadn't you better call your mother? You promised you would call her today. 8. You'd better close the windows and lock the door when you leave the house. 9. Everyone is tired after the long journey. We'd better stay in today and relax. 10. Sam had better not borrow my car without asking again. Otherwise, I'll be really angry. 11. Ken is extremely busy in there. You'd better not disturb him for a while. 12. You haven't paid the house rent for last month. You had better pay soon, otherwise the landlord will be annoyed. 13. The new Turkish restaurant is so popular. We'd better book a table early. 14. George, your classwork and homework are not good enough. You'd better try harder, otherwise you won't get into university. 15. This meat looks bad. We'd better not eat it. 16. Your car is absolutely filthy. You'd better clean it before you pick up Uncle Lee. 17. The computer keeps crashing and deleting all my work. We'd better get it fixed. 18. We haven't seen your parents for a few months. We'd better visit them soon. 19. My eyesight is getting worse and worse. I'd better get my eyes checked and buy some new glasses. 20. Lila is really angry with you. You'd better hide. 21. Hadn't we better put a bigger lock on this door? I'm worried about thieves in the area. 22. This president has promised so much for the people of the country. He'd better not break his promises, or else there will be huge public anger. 23. This movie is so boring. It had better finish soon, otherwise I'll just walk out before the end. 24. I'd better throw this broken ladder away, otherwise someone will get hurt. 25. Mike had better pick up that broken glass. It's dangerous with these kids running around. 26. I'd better start cooking now. The guest will arrive in 2 hours. 27. Michael, you are rushing your classwork. You'd better slow down, otherwise you'll make lots of mistakes. 28. Sorry, Paul, but we'd better not buy the new car you want. It's too expensive for us now. 29. You'd better not sit too close to me. I have a cold and I don't want you to catch it. 30. Your novel is fantastic, but you'd better rewrite this chapter because it's not exciting enough.